It's Monday, and that so happens to be the day that I like to talk about monsters. Hello, and welcome to Monster Mondays. I am Jeff Arbuckle, co-host of the podcast Film Seizure, that you can catch each Wednesday at filmseizure.com or at a number of podcast providers online. Now, I'll argue that the pop culture consciousness fear of clowns really kind of began on June 4, 1982, with the release of Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist. That said, I think it's also easy to say that some kids may have always been a little bit scared of clowns, going back much further than that. You know, they get up in your face, they cover their faces with makeup and painted on emotions. John Wayne Gacy was a party clown, and holy cow, he was a creep. But need I say more? So with that, this week's movie kind of plays off the potential menace of clowns, but in a kind of fun and silly sci-fi horror sort of way. We're going to discuss the 1988 cult classic from the Chiodo brothers, Killer Klowns from Outer Space. This one is a fun one, kiddos. The Chiodo brothers, Charles, Stephen, and Edward, came from the Bronx and worked quite a bit in special effects. They worked with clay modeling, animatronics, designing creatures and such. Their best-known works in the world of creatures and puppets were for the films Critters and Team America World Police. But their first big break was for the stop-motion creature creation of Large Marge in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And their clay animation work was featured 5 times on The Simpsons. But Killer Klowns from Outer Space features their larger-scale creature creations. And these are monsters that are made from heavy rubber prosthetics and suits to create tall, thin clowns, short, squat clowns, both with grotesque and stylized features. And this was something similar for the Ernest Scared Stupid film a few years later, as they were asked to create the trolls for that film. Now, while Stephen Chiodo directed this film from a script co-written by him and Charles, all 3 brothers produced the film. But the majority of the effects work was actually handed off to other effects artists, while they mostly stuck with the kind of the creation, the idea side of things. And the title included the words "From Outer Space" to hide the fact that this was really much more of a slasher film disguised as this kind of silly alien invasion movie. But as we'll talk about in a little bit more detail later, there is a lot of creativity around this theme. The movie focuses on a small Californian town called Crescent Cove. This town has a clown-themed fast food joint, a clown-themed ice cream truck. The town definitely fits the theme of the movie, if you know what I mean. But anyway, Mike and his girlfriend Debbie are necking at Lover's Lane when they see something strange in the sky. Local old man farmer Green also sees this and believes that it's Halley's Comet. And he and his dog go to investigate what they find is actually a big top circus tent and not a crash site for a comet or a meteorite. His dog is caught by a clown, or at least a clown-like creature that we see in shadow at first, but it sticks a net out and pulls the dog into the tent. Farmer Green, believing something funny is going on around here and threatens to tear the tent down with his bare hands if they don't give him back his dog, is eventually approached by a clown and shot with a laser gun of some sort. Now, Debbie and Mike find the tent, and Debbie's smart enough to see that something's weird about a circus tent in the middle of the woods with no one else around. But Mike convinces her to take a look. And when they go inside, they see bizarre interiors of the tent. And they also get the idea as they go deeper into the structure that this is definitely not a circus. And Debbie determines that what they're in and what they thought was a shooting star was that if there's ever been a case for UFOs, this is definitely it. And they discover a room full of giant hanging cocoons made of what looks like cotton candy. And when they open up one of the cocoons, they see the face of a local that's being slowly digested. And they have to beat a hasty retreat from one of the killer clowns as he fires at them with what is effectively a popcorn gun. Yeah, a gun that shoots popcorn. But when Debbie questions why they're shooting popcorn at them, Mike says it's because they're clowns. Duh. Come on now. Come on, Debbie, you seem like a smart girl. But they are chased by killer clowns who use a balloon animal that's like a dog to sniff them out, but they manage to get away. And as Debbie and Mike try to find someone who can help them, the killer clowns make their way toward Crescent Cove. And Debbie and Mike try to convince her friend and police officer Dave about what they saw. And while they talk to Officer Hansen, that happens to come out that he's Debbie's old boyfriend. But there's another real piece of work of a cop named Mooney who refuses to believe anything they have to say and just basically hates every young person in the town so much that he just thinks that they're trying to play a prank on the police department. Kind of think of him as the all the way on the other end kind of opposition to our teenage heroes of the Blob. Kids are dumb and they're only up to no good, and therefore they can't be trusted or thought of as productive members of society, and they certainly aren't going to help protect society. And as Mike and Dave go to check out the circus tent, the killer clowns are running amok in Crescent Cove. I mean, they set up puppet shows to lure victims to be turned into cotton candy. They pretend to be pizza delivery guys and so forth. One of the clowns pulls up on a trike in front of a bunch of tough bikers. And when one of the bikers smashes the trike, the clown knocks the biker's block off. Literally, he knocks the guy's head off. Meanwhile, Mike and Dave aren't able to find the tent, making Dave believe that what Mooney said was true and that these two are just trying to play a prank on him for some reason. But driving back into town, they discover that all the cars on Lover's Lane are abandoned or wrecked, and a lot of them are covered with that cotton candy type stuff. So Dave now believes that something is going on, and he decides to begin working with Mike to try to get to the bottom of this. And as reports come into the police station, Mooney, of course, doesn't believe anybody who doesn't seem to be a kid. And he thinks all the youth in town are basically these spoiled brats. And he even says that he would like to shoot them all. He's a cartoonish type of villain cop type character who thinks he's super tough. But however, when adults start calling, he still thinks that this is all the work of two brothers in particular, the Terenzi brothers. They're the guys who drive around with the clown themed ice cream truck. And he specifically does not like them. So he basically begins ignoring all the calls. And later, when a clown actually visits him at the station, he still believes that he's tougher than the killer clown. And he tries hitting the clown in the back of the head with a blackjack, but it does nothing. And the clown ultimately uses one of those party favors that like has the little paper that rolls out. That has, in this case, has like a little hand at the end of it to strangle Mooney. But at Debbie's house, we learn that the popcorn that's fired out of the popcorn gun isn't just your average popcorn. They're moving around like little bug monsters. And we do also see the popcorn able to, wherever it's left, ultimately turns into something that gobbles people up. And on the way back to town, Mike and Dave see a killer clown entertaining some people with shadow puppets until one of the shadows turns into a dinosaur and eats all the people. Dave heads back to the station and sends Mike off to start telling people to get indoors and stay there and to basically warn them about the killer clowns. And when Dave gets back to the station, he finds Mooney turned into a dummy by the killer clown that he kind of came into contact with. And the killer clown, through Mooney, tells Dave that they just want to kill them. Now, when he shoots the killer clown's big red nose, it causes the clown to spin around like a top and ultimately explode. Now, most of the town has been cocooned up in the cotton candy cocoons and getting collected by the killer clowns as they kind of parade through town. Literally, they're like in a parade, picking up these cocoons. But back at Debbie's place, some of the popcorn that was still on her clothes have turned into almost like these little jack-in-the-box monsters that pop up out of her clothes hamper, the toilet, the bathroom medicine cabinet, and so forth. Killer clowns come to her house to attack her, and they don't turn her into a cotton candy cocoon, but instead she's put into a balloon, which is kind of a convenient, a convenient method of keeping one of the lead characters alive. They don't put her in the cocoon, which will instantly kill her. No, they put her in a balloon instead. But they decide that they basically the clowns are going to all decide to hide at the amusement park, and they are followed by Dave and Mike and the brothers in the ice cream truck. Now, when they get to the amusement park, Mike figures out that this is the same tent that he and Debbie were in before. And they watch as a killer clown uses a crazy straw to suck what looks like blood from the cotton candy cocoons. And they find the balloon that Debbie's in and free her. And Dave wants to free the others, but Mike has to tell him it's a little bit too late because they're now being chased by killer clowns. And as they try to escape through the hallways, they become more like a fun house with weird corridors and various booby traps and so forth. The brothers' ice cream truck that has a clown head at the top of it turns out to save the day as they're able to effectively use it to talk to it like it's some sort of, like, talk to the killer clowns as if this head on top of the truck is some sort of a clown god. And at first, it all looks like it's going to work out just fine and they're going to be able to escape, but the killer clowns reveal their greatest weapon. They lower a gigantic marionette clown that's called Clownzilla, and Clownzilla attacks the truck, destroys the clown head on top of that, and then the ice cream truck itself. Mike and Debbie escape while Dave distracts Clownzilla, and Dave is ultimately able to defeat Clownzilla by using the pin on the back of his badge to pop Clownzilla's big red nose, and it destroys the monster and the ship itself. And victorious, they watch the fireworks resulting from the ship's destruction as it rains down glitter. And when everything seems great, but as one last joke by the killer clowns, they get pies landing on their face from the stuff that's falling out of the sky. But let's talk about 3 things I like about Killer Klowns from Outer Space. First, God, I love the theme song, Killer Klowns by the Dickies. The Dickies are a punk band, and they were around for a while, even at the time that this movie came out, and they are still basically around, though at the time of recording this episode, they are planning on recording one final record before retiring. And the band kind of leans into pop punk aesthetic. That's hard to say. And this theme song is super fun and kind of bubbly while also having kind of a twisted feel to it. And in a lot of ways, if you know the underground band, and I know them well because their work through Horror Hound Records as well as being here in Indiana. But if you know of the band Harley Poe, you can definitely see a lineage there between with this type of sound in these songs. It's a little bit circusy. It's definitely punk and got a harder edge to it, but it also has like maybe a surfer or a 60s vibe to it, or a, kind of like that circusy sound to it. It's a lot of fun. And the song was written by frontman Leonard Phillips, who hadn't actually seen the movie or knew much more than maybe a rudimentary concept of what the movie was called and what it might be about. But it turns out to be perfect for this type of movie. Second, man, oh man, this movie wastes no time at all getting to the killer clowns. I mean, in the first 10 minutes of the movie, the killer clowns land on Earth. We meet several of the locals. Most importantly, we meet, Dave, Mike, and Debbie, who are key figures. Even the Terenzi brothers are somewhat key figures to understand what they're all about, so that you're prepared for them when they show back up in the second half of the movie. But they land on Earth with the circus tent ship. We see the silhouette of one of the clowns. We get a tease of what they actually look like when that one nets the farmer's dog. And then the farmer himself, along with us, get a full-on look at what one of these killer clowns actually looks like. And this movie hits the gas with that killer theme song from the Dickies and really doesn't let up from there. And I mean, there's no hiding our alien monsters, and there's no point to it. People don't go to a movie called Killer Klowns from Outer Space to be teased the actual killer clowns from outer space. I mean, the setup is done so quickly so that we can actually get to the madcap fun of the rest of the movie itself. And third, this movie's overall aesthetic is fantastic. First of all, you have you have a title and general setup of a 50s B-movie monster flick. Second, you have the old idea of clowns and circus stuff, but then you mix the two ideas, and what you end up getting is taking all these things that once upon a time a kid or people in general would have found fun and fanciful, and then you get it all twisted into something nightmarish, but still funny. It's still kind of silly and fanciful, right? So I can imagine how the idea of this movie came to be. I can imagine the Chiodos sitting around and just spinning yarns about how you can take stuff that seems sweet and innocent and then turn it into something that a monster movie would use with that silly kind of B-movies feel around it. Like all these things that clowns have or are associated with: cotton candy, popcorn, circuses, balloon animals, just balloons in general, shadow puppets, pantomime, pies in the face. Then think of all the ways that you can then turn that from something, really kind of funny and innocent or silly or whatever, and then it becomes something horrifying and out of this world. Now, I will say there is one really there's one disturbing scene and one disturbing line in this entire 85 minutes of the plot itself. And that's when one of the killer clowns is luring a little girl out of Big Top Burger, the little fast food joint that's clown themed, where he plans to bop her over the head with a big silly mallet. Now, the big silly mallet is funny, but the way it's kind of luring the girl and the way she's kind of attracted to, being kind of lured out by him, that's creepy. It's a legitimately creepy scene. And it does bring the movie into the more straight horror lane. And then there's the one line when the killer clown is using, the dickhead cop Mooney as a puppet, and he says, "We just want to kill everyone," essentially. That was a creepy line, and it's creepily done because you're seeing somebody being puppeted, and the actual clown is speaking through him. It does a good job of having those creepy moments, but also limiting that to keep up with the fun and silly premise where it should stay for the vast majority of the movie. But that wraps up this week's Monster Mondays. You can catch new episodes of Monster Mondays each Monday at filmseizure.com, but don't forget to follow Film Seizure at Facebook, Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky. You can also subscribe to Film Seizure to get both the Wednesday morning Film Seizure show and the Monday afternoon Monster Monday show at your favorite podcast providers. We also upload that stuff to YouTube. And you can also check out my website, bmovieanima.com, to read new reviews every Friday morning. Next time, we've got a movie from Larry Cohen that really has the stuff. So until next week, stay spooky.